There we go.
Hi everyone. Welcome to another episode of Inspiring and Able Conversations. I'm so happy to introduce you. So happy to introduce you a new but dear friend of mine. He is probably a bird, a birds advocating for change together, self advocacy organization, Cody Action Hall, and the other acronyms that I can't even pronounce some days. He's he is on YouTube as the anti-ablest, but I can call him affectionately my wingman, especially when I have emails to send that I don't know. Please welcome Mike, my friend Mike Wynn. Great, great to talk to you today, Mike.
You as well, Elijah. Hey, I just want to make sure that you know that your camera's off. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, I know. Mike,
Okay. No,
Mike,
no, I just wanted to check. 'Cause, yeah. Um,
everything told this interview is gonna be a little bit informal. Like some technical difficulties with the last one, so hopefully this one works. so, so tell us why you're here, Mike.
So, thank you so much for having me, Elijah. As Elijah said, my name is Mike Wing, and I have a TikTok and YouTube channel called The Anti-Ablest, where I essentially talk about disability-related issues and try to educate the broader public, on those issues and hopefully, increase their understanding of people with disability and decrease their need for ableism.
Right. And how would you define ableism then? Because I think people, like, as soon as they hear the ism word now, they're like, it was kind of a little bit, so, because, like, can you explain what you mean by ableism? And do you think whether you, and the nature of intentionality when it comes to that definition?
Yeah. So ableism to me is when somebody treats a person with a disability differently, uh, solely because they have a disability.
Right.
And I think that the reason that people do that is a lack of understanding. I don't necessarily believe, although, there are bad apples on every tree, but I don't think that for the most part people are intentionally ableist. I don't think they're intentionally trying to belittle or demean somebody. I think it's a lack of understanding. Um, and it is also possible that it may be a fear response. Maybe the person is afraid of becoming disabled themselves until they feel like they have to put themselves up on a higher footing than the person with the disability.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I mean, I'm not saying that in a mean way. I'm just saying that that is another possibility of why people are ableist. And if they understood and were educated on disability and um, what the lives of people with disabilities were like, then it might help them feel less fearful or less ignorant to people with disabilities.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense to me. I often wonder about that too because I've struggled with the internalized. I gotta do everything, and so for me to like lose my memory because of COVID a couple months ago, I lost the ability to concentrate, and it was very hard for me to come to terms with losing one of my biggest friends. So I can't imagine what it's like for an able-bodied person to look at a disabled person in a chair and go, "Yikes." Like, if it happens to us, I'm sure it's terrible for those who are able-bodied. So,
Yeah.
have you experienced that as well, in a way?
Yeah. Um, I definitely think that, through education, it will really help people understand like why and the what and the how. And just, I don't know, hopefully make them more considerate and more compassionate towards people.
Mm-hmm. And so, what brought you to the advocacy world, and how do you manage to do like 5 different things and still come to karaoke? Yes, we do have karaoke, people.
Oh no, now your audience knows that I sing. There will never be a video of that, I promise. No. So what brought me into advocacy, so my entire family have been social justice defenders and advocates and activists and all of that. So it's kind of always been in my blood.
Mm,
But it wasn't till 2015 when I first moved to Edmonton that the service provider that was giving me some support, they introduced me to the Health Advocacy Federation. And yeah, I started to realize that I enjoyed disability advocacy, and it just kind of went from there. Uh, as for how I handle 5 different hats, uh, and it's actually more than that, but how I handle it is there's 2 things. One is knowing that I am amongst friends in the advocacy group that I'm part of, and knowing that it's a safe space for me to share my thoughts and feelings and emotions and all of that stuff. Um, and I'm not gonna get yelled at or, told off for feeling a certain way. But the other part I think is having having those self-care regimen that I do, whether it's listening to music, whether it's watching Eliza's YouTube channel, whether
thank
it's
you. Thank you for
going
the
for a
book.
walk.
Thank you for the book.
um no, but it's about taking care of yourself, and
Yeah.
I think knowing when you have to step back and
Yeah.
keep your own mental health intact.
Yeah. Do you find that mental health and disability advocacy go together for you? Um, and why is that?
Yes, absolutely. So my wife actually went through her own mental health struggles a few years ago. I actually gave a speech about it in Calgary, and you can find that on my YouTube channel, the anti-ablest. But because of her experience, it just made me so angry of how she was treated in the mental health system that
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I needed to advocate for it as well as disability. And, I think because some people with disabilities have experienced trauma, obviously mental health is gonna be part of that disability journey. Um, and, not having access to the services that they need, can also trigger mental health. So,
Mm. Do you find, as I do sometimes, and you know I'm giggly, this is what this conversation is for, because I find when we talk in groups, sometimes it can get a little heated. Not between you and I, but just the energy is so loud that we can't hear each other, literally. And so I just want to say, do you think that's kind of something that advocacy groups could work on, is acknowledging the mental health of participants?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that taking into consideration the mental health of the members of the group is so important. Because just because I am somebody who knows where my limit is and knows, okay, I need to step away or I need to, you know, turn off my turn off my speakers and not hear this. It doesn't mean everybody is able to do that. And so then, because of that, it can make them lash out, or it can make them, say things they don't mean, or whatnot. So I think making sure that the topics that you're covering are comfortable for everybody and that people aren't gonna feel triggered, and if they are gonna feel triggered, maybe having them step away while that conversation is going on. I think that's really important.
What do you, and I'm not speaking Mary, I'm speaking personally in your experience, what to you defines when somebody's really disabled by something? Like, if you look at somebody and went, that attitude is disabling, or that, like, what would it be for you?
Yeah, so see, I actually don't like the word disabled. I sometimes use it because it looks better in a sentence than saying person with disability. But to me, to disable something means it's broken. It means to take it apart. It means it can't be repaired. Um, so having said that, to me, I think that a person being disabled actually means they're disabled by the systems um, that are in place. So think about it like accessibility. If there's a set of stairs, the person is disabled because they can't get up the stairs.
Mm,
So they're not broken, but the parts of the system that they need to access are broken.
mm. So, for all those who are anxious, he's talking about the social model of disability, not the medical well, my social theory academics out there, but back to the social model of disability, where it's like it's not the physical impairment, it's the society in which we live that makes the person disabled.
Yep, exactly. And
Um,
I actually have a good friend that once said, and he said it more eloquently than I'm going to, but he said basically the gist of it was, why what if instead of trying to fit the person with the disability in the world, what if we designed a world that fit the person with the disability?
and I think I know who that is.
You do.
Yeah, she's a YouTube channel too, and we both love it. We both love it, Julie. So yeah, that's
Well, I know who
definitely.
you're thinking of. That's not who it is. Just so you know.
Oh,
No.
oh, yeah. But yeah, it's just, yeah, it's definitely social impairment, and like you said, but ignorance too. And so, what do you think advocacy groups? What do you think advocacy groups could do to move more into a social change that's based on the social model rather than a medical model?
Um,
Or
yeah,
like
I mean,
a problem?
I think it's really difficult because when you feel impacted by something, it's really difficult to like put your anger and your frustration into the right place. But I think it's important to say, if this thing is happening, um, like, it's impacting more than just one person with a disability, and this is why
Mhm.
it's impacting these people, and this is how we can move towards changing it. Whether it's a letter writing campaign, whether it, um, sending emails, whether it a rally, whether it whatever it is. But I
Mhm.
but I think sometimes the problem is, and I'll just speak to the disability community, but I don't think it um solely an issue for our community. But I think sometimes we feel like we're alone
Mhm.
when it comes to advocacy. And I think that we feel like the world is on our shoulders and our shoulders alone, so we have to try to lift it up. Instead of understanding that there's other people that are facing that same barrier and they will help us lift it up.
Mm. And I agree with you. See if this relates to what you're saying, in that when I usually do my town stuff with my hometown, I usually try and talk about seniors as well as young mothers when I talk about accessibility. So it's not just those who are disabled who are impacted by this change. It's those who just have mobility difficulties. Is that more like you're saying? Or am I off? I'm okay to be off.
All that I'm saying is like, well, I mean, I guess in a way we're saying the same thing because intersectionality is a really important thing when it comes to disability.
Yeah.
Disability is the only demographic that intersects with every other demographic.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. If you're a person with a disability who also happens to be a senior, who also happens to be indigenous, yeah, absolutely. You can have the same barriers as somebody who just has a disability, right?
Or maybe even more, depending on.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Now, on your YouTube channel, and I'm thinking this is fair game, because you speak about publicly. On your YouTube channel, you often state that you grew up kind of running away from disability for a bit because of family members' uh, reactions. Can you tell us how you kind of came to the point where you're like, I'm not running from this anymore, like I'm just gonna be me?
Yeah. My 30s have been a fascinating time. Uh, yeah. So I think it's from being involved with disability advocacy groups and that whole idea that people with disabilities are just regular people. Like we want to be treated like everybody else as much as we can. Um, even if we need that extra support, but it doesn't diminish our value in the world. And I think having that pounded in my head since like 2015 has really kind of helped me understand myself and helped me kind of turn that mentality around of like my disability doesn't define me
Mm,
and it doesn't have to define me.
right, yeah. And so, what would be like some of the tools that you use to make that turn around?
So
Would you
wait,
say?
wait, give me 1 second. My wife is texting me at the moment. I'm sorry. So wait,
Yeah,
what was the question? We don't have to edit that out. Just
no problem. So I was wondering, what were the tools that you used for that turnaround? Because part of these interviews is giving people tools to become more able-minded, as I like to call it. Because for me, I think disabilities, like, I'm like the IQ poster, like it's 90% what you think about something that happens to you. And so, what were some of the tools that you used for that turnaround?
Um,
If you don't
I
mind
mean,
sharing.
my biggest tool that I've used all throughout my life has been psychoanalysis. And for those of you that don't know what that is, it's basically where you look at a situation and you do a complete analysis of it. I've done it on so many things in my life. Um, and so I think that's part of what it was. I also think it was um, again, just being around that mindset of like, just because I have this disability, it doesn't have to be a big deal. Like, it doesn't have to be this massive neon sign above my head that says Charge Syndrome on it. You know?
Right, yes. And yeah, I think redefining a situation is paramount to that, and it sounds like you've definitely done this. And when you write, and I feel like mm, I hope we don't get this out, but I, I will, you yourself told me and the group that you are working on a memoir, and
Yeah.
so when that comes
Oh, yeah.
out,
And I actually, that is also part of it, because I realized that I can't really complete the memoir until I, work through my internalized ableism. Because that's a really bad way to end a memoir. Yeah, so I'm internally ableist, the end.
yeah, no, but do you think your ableism gave you a perspective that made you more willing to talk instead of just yell at able-bodied
Yeah,
people?
I definitely think it did. It made me understand more. I think that yeah, I would definitely say that it helped me understand people's perspective, I guess, when it comes to ableism, and it gave me that better idea of how to help them undo it.
Mm-hmm. And how do we undo it, Mike?
Say that one more time.
How do we undo it?
How do we undo it? Um, I think it's like anything. Um, Being educated and allowing yourself to be educated and understand that people with disabilities are people who just want to live their lives and who might need a little bit of extra support, but um, that doesn't that doesn't prevent us from doing things, and it doesn't mean that we're less capable than somebody
Mm-hmm.
else. I mean, not to give a stereotypical example of autism, but there are some people with disabilities that are better at some things than other people.
Right.
Right? And there's some people that aren't, but that's just like everybody. There's things that I can do that um, you know, my wife can't do. There's things my wife can do that I can't do. It Whether you have a disability or not, it doesn't make you less capable.
Right. And
And also, I think that we have to not. I mean, I'm not saying the media is bad, but I'm just saying that I think sometimes the media can project things a certain way that are not necessarily how they actually are.
you just summarized my entire critical analysis of good benefit. Um, because yeah, because the media definitely hits the panic button, and it's so unfortunate because a lot of people do have traumas, and so when the media is going, this is an outrage, the poor people that we work with a lot of the time, it's just like they get so freaked, and it's just like brief. They have to present it the same way, otherwise they don't get viewers.
Yeah,
So that's a bit why I wrote. That's and I know we're not here to talk about different views about the benefit, but I will say this: that I think the media did not help the discord even between us because we were just functioning from this place of um different perspectives, but because the media was showing this huge like catastrophe thinking, it really kind of put a wedge between a lot of people in the disability community,
yeah.
and that's the unfortunate thing.
I
So
mean, yeah. I mean, just to use a different example, I think one of the biggest ones is religion. Because like I don't know. I get that there's some people that are very, mean-spirited and awful people. Um, Most of the Christians that I know are not. Like, they are great, amazing, kind people who have never said a bad thing to me. Um, and I think that the media portrays religion in such a bad light that it creates this discourse. And you know um I don't know what you believe, but I believe that religion was never intended to be the hateful,
no, it
thing.
wasn't. This
uh,
is
yeah.
this. Sorry, no, it was never intended to be hateful. This is funny meme that my dad always talks about, and it's like Jesus Burger Mom, and I never fucking said that. And it's just like, yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we have to be careful, discipline or not, to really take a step back and just really understand that certain things get framed in certain ways, to create this maybe discussion, but maybe discord, so they'll have something more to talk about the next day. And I'm not saying it's a conspiracy. All I'm saying is the longer it bleeds, the longer it leads.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And like, we've talked about this before, but I think that you and I have such um uh we have such a amazing opportunity with our platform to be able to have these conversations and to, maybe help change that discourse. Um, uh, because, at the end of the day, people with disabilities are the voices of experience. Like, we know what's happening, we know what's going on. Um, Listening to the media is not gonna give you the full picture. Like, that's
No.
why it's so important that we do what we do.
Yep. Or you just gotta be like, whoa, it's okay, come in peace. Or not gonna budget. I saw this beautiful interview with Dolly Pine once on Netflix, and she's going. She has to say to a lot of people, I know I look artificial, but I promise I'm nice. I'm not scary, And it's the same with disability works, cause like, okay, we know we look a little different, cause everything's okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah,
and we're in the last 10 minutes again. It's been a beautiful conversation. But is that who or what inspires you to get up every day to do what you do as the anti-ablest?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
Lisa,
Uh,
you remind me.
you're throwing curveball at me. You're a good interviewer.
Lisa, here's a reminder.
Thank you.
Um,
Let's see.
who inspires me? Honestly, I would say my dad. Um, my dad has always pushed me to believe in myself and believe that I am capable of doing anything that I set my mind to. So anytime that I feel like I can't do something, I just lean on, his advice and his um uh um the things that he would tell me. Um and I think that's so important, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And to really respect, we often talk with each other about privileges, because I think you and I have had these lives where we've had the pain of ableism, but it's been buffered by this loving family that we've got. And
Yeah,
so I think that's definitely important to respect our privileges and to use them, as you've said before, to be a voice for the voiceless. And I
yeah,
really appreciate how your channel really does that, but not in a no, I know when I know everybody's situation. It's just more of a hey, this is my experience, and I hope it helps you. And
but yeah, and I mean, like we've talked about before, like you and I also have the ability to say, this is our experience, this is what we endured, this is how it should be for everybody with a disability. Like everybody with a disability should have loving parents that care about them, that want the best for them, all of this stuff. And to be treated with respect and all of that. Um, and yeah, we have that great ability and that great privilege of being able to see it from the other side.
and I think that's important for those who don't like. We can be the person that goes, whoa, 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 it's okay. This is just how the media frames it. We are gonna be okay.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, and
yeah,
but I really think that's important to be those voices for those who can't. I really appreciate your channel for doing this.
thank
Really
you.
appreciate your sense of humor, even though sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night going, "Oh, that's why he meant." No, okay. But
Yeah. I and I also think though, like it it gives the people that are voiceless that hope of like maybe my life could be like that. Like
yep,
maybe if I, do this thing or join an advocacy group or get involved with Gateway Association in Edmonton or Calgary, maybe, just maybe, um their life can, get
yep,
better and yeah, it gives them that hope.
for sure. Hope is essential. Um, especially nowadays when the conversation around the coffee table can just be like, "Oh my God, I love you, Scoopy," but um. Yeah, hope is essential, and I think that is an adaptive technology that I think people with disabilities need to understand how this can be used
Yeah,
for the best.
yeah,
It's not like some pie in the sky thinking, it's just saying, no, there isn't another side to this, and I really appreciate it.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and any final thoughts in the last few minutes here?
I wanted to touch on something that you mentioned in the last attempt at this interview. Uh because I think it actually really kind of powerful, and it kind of gave me pause, I think. But you were talking about how uh um sometimes people with disabilities, um they want the equality, oh sorry, they want the equity more than the equality. So they wanna do something exactly like somebody else or somebody without a disability does it, but they kind of miss that understanding of, like, they might need that extra help. They might need that accommodation to help them. Um, you said it so much better than I'm saying it. Do you remember what you said?
Yes, but we need to make a shift in disability advocacy from equality to equity.
That's
Because
what
I
it was.
think
Yeah.
people think we have to be exactly the same, and the truth is, people with disabilities can't. And I, because, like you said in the last attempt, disability is the only demographic that reaches across the board, i- if I may paraphrase. And I'm just like,
Yep.
yeah, you can't become LGBTQ by somebody texting and hit T-boning you. You just can't. Like, it's,
No. No.
and so it's just like, um, yeah, so I think that's the thing we also need to consider is a lot of people with disabilities are in different states. Not only physically, not
Yeah.
only mentally, but like in the acceptance level of their ability. And I
Yeah.
think that's something we have to recognize, because somebody like me and you, who I affectionately call a lifer, who was born into it, if I may say,
Sure.
has a different experience of it than somebody who just got disabled yesterday or last
Right. Yeah.
when you last out. And you're watching this from a hospital room. We are thinking of you and we send you our best. But the point is, we all need to respect each other from where we're coming from, what we need. And I thank you for allowing this interview to be that space.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to add to it really quick. The other part of that too is that some of that difficulty of accepting that, I personally think, is internalized ableism, because
Right.
you don't want to be you don't want to somehow be perceived as different.
Yeah.
But, just because you get to the top of Mount Everest a different way from somebody else doesn't mean that you can't get to the top of Mount Everest.
Right.
Now,
Yes.
don't go out there and attempt to climb Mount Everest and then blame me if you don't get to the top. I am not being held liable for any of that.
And, and we'll leave it there. God bless you, everybody. Thanks, Mike. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.